Today, we have a sports dietitian on. She works at J Train Athletic Performance in Brookvale, and she trains at Be Athletic, which used to be CrossFit Athletic, in the same suburb in Sydney. You can follow her on Instagram under @Tara Sports Dietitian or Tara the Sports Dietitian. Oh, sorry. What is it?
Tara Emily _sports dietitian.
Oh, this is you have a long handle.
I know, everyone says that when they put.
I looked at it this morning. I was like, oh, how can I forget that?
When they tag me, they always say, "Oh my gosh, your Instagram is so long."
Yeah, you need a shorter one.
Probably.
Anyways, I will link it on the video so people will see the right one. Yeah. But Tara, Kaff, welcome on the show.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
So what I usually ask people that when the topic is nutrition or diet or anything like that, I have to ask, what do you usually eat for breakfast, or what did you have for breakfast this morning?
So I'm a creature of habit. So I usually have the same breakfast every single day. So this morning, because I trained, I tend to have quite a large breakfast. So
Before your training?
No. After my training.
Oh, wow.
So before training, I will usually eat depending on what the time is. Or I'll have something such as like a juice for a bit of carb hit. So this morning I had some juice before I trained, and then once I trained, got home and I'll eat eggs. So I kind of have a bit of a mixture of things. I'm a cereal fanatic.
Cereals?
So I love cereals, seriously. And I remember when I was a kid, I would used to sit and have bowls of cereal the size of my head.
Which one? Which one was your favorite when you were a kid?
Look, Cocoa Pops was definitely my favorite, but my mum would never let me have it except when we went camping. So I would, what would I have? Probably Wheat Bix, but now I love Wheat Bix again. Like I went out, so I have Wheat Bix every single morning.
Wait, so you had eggs and Wheat Bix this morning?
Yeah. So
Together? No.
Mix them up. No. So I had the eggs on a plate and then my Wheat Bix on a bowl, in a bowl. But my eggs will be like 2 eggs with, I'll usually put veg in it. So spinach, onion, capsicum, tomato, I think that's about it. Mushrooms.
It's a bit of a scramble.
Bit of a scrambled egg. Yeah. And then I'll have 4 Wheat Bix with some sugar-free maple syrup. I'm a bit of a sweet tooth as well. Sugar-free maple syrup and just some milk and blueberries. So it's a massive breakfast.
That is a pretty solid breakfast. How many calories is that roughly? Sorry, I'm not judging here. I'm just curious.
No,
you train a lot, right?
Yeah. So well, my breakfast calories is usually 650-ish. Okay. So it's quite a big
decent
chunk. Yeah, but I eat a lot of calories throughout the day as well. And most people say, it's such a generalized term, like, oh, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. People have, there's been heaps of controversy like, oh, it's not the most important meal. And it's not, but for some people it really is. And for me,
individual.
Totally. That's what nutrition is, completely individual. So for me, if I don't have a good breakfast, my whole day is just wiped. So I make sure that if I have a really good breakfast every single day.
That's awesome. Yeah. And to put it in context a little bit before we continue on, you sometimes or quite often train twice a day. So it's, different.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
You maybe your average person. I haven't trained twice a day for a long time. So
yeah, definitely. And I mean, for a female, when I tell people, the types of calories that I'm on a day, they're like, holy moly, that's a lot of calories, But yeah, exactly right. To put it into context, I do train twice a day, 4 times a week. And then one day I have 2 rest days. One's sort of active recovery. So whether that be like a swim or, a 30-minute sort of slow aerobic style training.
Yeah.
And then Saturdays I'll just do the class at Be Athletic. So lots of training.
Yeah, wow. And I guess some of your goals is a bit sport specific as well, and that's why your calorie intake is fairly high.
Exactly. So I'm very much all about fueling to perform. That's actually my business name is Fuel to Perform. So that's sort of eat for fuel and fuel to perform. That's my little slogan, because it's true. People are so caught up in and trying to perform well. But if you don't fuel yourself correctly, you're not going to perform well.
Yeah, some people have been scared to get in the calories, and I know a few of them, especially, I mean, my friends will know who I'm talking about. So, and they're guys.
Yeah.
So tell me roughly, again, a rough number, how many calories do you eat a day?
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm sitting on 2,850.
Yeah.
So a lot.
Awesome.
And I could probably eat slightly more than that, to be honest. I like food.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Some of my friends that I'm referring to, they are on way less than that. And they're guys that are bigger than you. And they train maybe not 4 days, twice a day, but they do train a lot.
A lot.
And then they're scared to up the calorie intake towards the 3,000s. So,
yeah. And I mean, to be honest, most guys should be on, minimum 3,000. Look,
if they're
that's
training,
a very
if they're training
generalized.
Right. Yeah.
Very
Depends on size and the goals, et cetera.
Exactly right. But, I would never ever put, even if they're on a calorie deficit, I wouldn't even put them on less than 2,000. 300 is really quite low, but so
it's a bad day for me. Trying to put on weight. And I wonder why I'm not, because I'm sometimes eating not enough calories.
It's just about all the nutrient timing as well. I mean, that's just very sport specific as well. So putting on size and avoiding fat mass gains, it's definitely important to periodize your macronutrients for sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot more talk about that. But hey, I want to jump back a little bit to, I guess, some basic info around you and what you're doing. So a common question that I feel people get wrong all the time is, what's the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian? And I maybe should preface this with in Australia.
Yeah. Essentially, it's just based on the regulatory board. So dietitians, it is vital for them to do a 3-year university degree, and then not 3 year. It's either 4 or 5 years. The first 3 years you become a nutritionist, and then you do a clinical block. Not a clinical block, more like a practicum block. And that's when you go out in the field and you act as a dietitian. So essentially that's the difference. So we are university qualified, and you can't become a dietitian unless you've done that university degree. Whereas a nutritionist, you can become a nutritionist after a 3-week course of nutrition or a 3-year course of nutrition. So there's no regulation or there's no regulatory board to say, okay, you've done this X amount of years of this study, you are now a qualified nutritionist. Whereas we have to go through a regulatory board called Dietitians Association Australia. I was a bit nervous I was going to get that wrong then. But yeah, so we have to be registered within that to be an accredited practicing dietitian. So that is essentially the difference between the two.
That makes sense. Just to refer back, I'm not sure if you got it slightly not wrong, but I think you just said maybe the wrong thing. The first 3 years of uni, you're not a nutritionist after those 3 years? Or
yes.
Oh, you are? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, yep, my bad.
So the way that my degree kind of was laid out was you do a 3 year, it's a 4-year degree. So the first 3 years is very sciencey based, lots of chemistry, anatomy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was the hardest 3 years of my life, I'll tell you that much. So biochemistry, anatomy, physiology, all that sort of stuff. Physics even. Don't know why we did physics. They took that out the year after I finished as well. I was like, you're kidding me. So the first 3 years is very science-based. The third year you get more into the medical nutrition therapy side of it. And then you can actually graduate as a nutritionist at that point with a Bachelor of Nutrition, and then you go on to do the 4th and final year, and you either do an honours project or you do subjects. I decided to do subjects because I'm not massive on research. And then you go out in the field and you do your prac. So that's clinical block, community block, and food service.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so you're doing that. And another thing, the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist is that we are medically trained. So we can work with different types of chronic diseases to be able to essentially give nutrition therapy advice.
Yeah.
So you'll never find a nutritionist in a hospital working with people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So my last question on that point is, so let's say if I did the precision nutrition course, can I call myself a nutritionist after that, basically?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Okay, so you can almost just call.
Yeah, I mean,
I read some books, so I'm sweet. Nothing against precision nutrition. I think it's a great course, but it's very different to call yourself a nutritionist.
Yeah,
to a dietitian.
no, I agree with you. Precision nutrition is probably, people have asked me, I don't want to go back to uni, or I don't want to go to uni in general, but I want to learn more about nutrition. What do you recommend? And I reckon precision nutrition is actually quite good. I've seen it goes into the sciencey part of it. But yeah, exactly right. I've seen people, do like a WBFF comp or whatever you call those sort of bodybuilding comps. And after that, they call themselves a nutritionist because they know how to get lean. It's like, really? Are you serious? And then I think that's when social media, unfortunately, comes into the swing of things, because they can market themselves if they've got, 10,000 plus followers. It's like, oh, great, I'm a nutritionist. Suddenly, it's totally right. Suddenly it's a business, and people can market themselves as a nutritionist, and 10% of those followers will be like, oh, I want to jump on what she's done because look at her body. Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy. I have mentioned this before on the podcast, but I think it's been taken off. I really should look this up. But, you had people advertising skinny tea and stuff like that. But I think Instagram went and policed some of that and took those accounts off. Yeah. Yeah, because it was clearly just not good advice.
So bad. Yeah. And social media, I love social media, and I think everyone does like social media, but it can be so dangerous, really. So
on that point, let's pick maybe two things that you experience with your clients. You obviously don't have to mention any names, about some of the wrong information we might be getting through social media now, because we see everyone looks lean and skinny, and particularly females, there's abs everywhere. Is that like meant to be a good thing or not? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you see in your work?
So I think the two top things, especially with females, I think there's lots of different misinformation out there, but I think with females especially is number one, hands down. The moment you said that, it popped in my brain. Carbs are bad. That is the number one thing I get. Oh, I've decreased my carbs because I'm trying to lose weight, or I've decreased my carbs because I know they make you fat, or I've stopped eating carbs after 4 p.m. because it makes you fat. My God, it's just, so that's one. Yeah. And then two is people want to be, they expect or they think that it's normal to be really lean. Because they see people out here on social media doing like, bodybuilding comps, or people that are just genetic freaks and that are just naturally super lean. Yeah. And they're like, I want that body. Like, that's normal. But I always try and reiterate to them that it's actually not normal. Yeah. I mean, it's not, when I say not normal, but.
Well, it's not healthy for, let's say someone with low body fat percentage. It's not healthy to live like that 24/7 for years.
No way. And at a low, body fat percentage where all your abs are popping out, it's not many females have abs popping out. It's just not like that. But again, going back to social media, because everyone posts their highlight reel on social media, and if you can see a couple of abs, then that photo goes up on Instagram, and then half the world sees it as that's normal. But yeah, I think that's the number one, two things that I see a lot.
Okay, let's delve into those a little bit more. So let's go back to the first one, carbs. Yeah. Explain the basic. What is carbs and why do we need it?
Yeah, carbs is essentially a sugar. So carbs, our body's main fuel source is carbohydrates. That is how our brain functions. That is how we function. That is how we, go to the gym. Well, that's how I go to the gym for 2 hours, 2 hours a day, and carbs are life. Carbs are amazing, honestly. But essentially it's just our body's main source of fuel. Right? And especially for athletes, that's when it becomes really important. But what was the second part of that question?
Let's go into specifics. What does your daily carb intake look like? Like, what type of carbs are you eating?
Yeah, my specific intake.
Let's start with you. Yeah.
So I'm big on carbs. I love my carbs. So I eat a lot of them. So for me personally at the moment, in terms of grams and like macronutrient targets, I hit about 300 grams of carbs a day. I could probably go a little bit more than that, but that's kind of roughly what I go for. And that's a mixture of different things. That's, my Weet-Bix in the morning. That'll be a little bit of juice if I have that before training. It'll be rice, yogurt, muesli, what else? Pasta. Can't think of the top of my head, but I think, that's
roughly how big is your, so 300 grams a day, let's say roughly how big is a serving of rice for you then at dinner? That's not 300 grams, but like, what would you have then at dinner, for instance?
Well, let's put it with lunch, right? Yep. Because with lunch, even today, I've made some Mexican zhuzh. That's what I call it. I just put heaps of stuff in the pan, yeah. So it's like a Mexican dish. So it's Mexican mince with, believe it or not, white rice and lots of spinach. So I use the microwave bags of rice because they're so good and easy. And there's nothing wrong with them either. They're fantastic. So I put in 220 grams of the microwave rice.
Is that about a bag? Like those?
It's just under a bag. Yep, a whole bag. People will be like, "Whoa, that's so many!" But it's that's how many I have. That's how much I have. Yeah. I mean, I'll get one of those big family packs, the 450, and I'll divide that by 3. So that comes to about 220, roughly.
Because I think that's a big thing. I mean, both of your points are kind of related because one, a lot of people are scared of carbs, and then two, they want to get really lean. And then what I see a lot in the kind of community that I'm around is that they also want to compete in a sport like CrossFit, or they want to do a triathlon and something that requires a lot of fuel, right? So the balance between, trying to get abs where your veins are popping out and being healthy and doing these sports, it's not feasible, is it?
Look, it sort of is. It's feasible to do that, but it's probably not completely realistic. Like, you can do it. I get a lot of CrossFit athletes that I work with that want to lean down. To put it into perspective myself, I decided to go through a little bit of a phase probably 3 weeks ago where I wanted to cut a little bit of weight, only because I wanted to be able to do my gymnastics a lot better and a lot easier rather than, hunging myself up there. And it helped just dropping, even 2 kilos helps huge amounts. Yeah. So it's just a matter of periodizing your macronutrient intake. Yeah. So it's like, people will come to me and be like, look, I want to lose a bit of weight, but I'd also really like to fuel my training. And I love when people come to me and say that, because I'm like, yes, yeah, exactly. So, you can be smart about, say, for example, someone wants to do that. Exactly. So lose a little bit of weight, but also wants to fuel their training. So, their training isn't compensated because they just want to lose weight. Yeah. And it's just about periodizing, especially your carbohydrates. So having your carbohydrates, majority of them around your training times, so pre and post, and you should be sweet because, obviously you're going into a session with a fuel source in your body. You use that fuel source, then you finish your session, and then you obviously
refuel.
Yeah. Exactly right. So, and then away from training, you probably taper back the amount of carbohydrates. So usually on, let's say, a rest day, people are like, oh, do I eat the same calories, if I'm not training? And I always say yes, but just periodize your carbohydrates to be closer to the most active parts of your day. So because essentially, why would you decrease your calories on a day that your body is like in highball sort of recovery mode? You wouldn't. So sticking to the same amount of calories and just being smart about when you sort of feed yourself and what you feed yourself.
How early before training do you try and get those carbs in?
Me personally, I always try and get high GI carbs in half an hour before training.
Half an hour? Wow.
Yeah,
okay, so pretty close.
I can tolerate food quite well because I guess I've just trained myself to do that over time. But some people can't. I know someone that can't even eat an hour before training because they feel sick. One of my girlfriends, she's like, it is like a battle trying to help her because she's just like, I don't want to eat. I can't eat. I said, what about having, some juice or some Powerade? She's probably like, oh, nah. I'm like, oh, well, I give up on you then. But yeah.
Yeah, so what do you because that's me a little bit too.
Yeah.
I find it hard to eat that close, especially if I'm going something that's high intensity.
Yeah.
What would be a good solution for that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what time you're training. So, obviously most people either train it in the morning or at night. So if someone's training in the morning, a lot of the time, most people don't really eat beforehand, which is okay. Obviously, it's best to eat something, but if you can't, then that's totally fine. Just make sure your dinner meal is quite substantial in carbohydrates. So obviously not having a full-blown bowl of pasta, but having a good size of carbohydrates means your muscle glycogen will be repleted overnight, and then in the morning you have some sort of fuel source in the tank to allow you to perform quite well. Yep. So whereas if you are training in the afternoon and you can't have something between that 30 to 60 minute period, which isn't actually, it's not a necessity, but if you feel like you need a bit of a top up, then that's fine. Just make sure that, your meal 2-3 hours before is really got a good substantial source of carbohydrates. And I tend to recommend having like a lower GI sort of carbohydrate meal, that's got lots of fiber in it as well, because that's...
Give an example of that. Like what's a low GI carb for people?
It's just think whole grains, right? So whether that be whole grain, wholemeal bread, anything that has a decent source of fiber in it. Brown rice, could be whole wheat pasta, those types of things. And especially if you are combining, this might get a little bit confusing, but if you're combining higher GI carbohydrates with protein and fat, that slows the absorption down of the high GI carbohydrate, therefore sort of making it a lower GI product.
Okay.
So just essentially it's just making sure that you have a really good substantial meal 2 to 3 hours beforehand. So protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and a bit of color.
Yeah. So, and if you're training in the afternoon, that's roughly your lunch then, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So you actually use in a training in a training session, you use the fuel that you ate 6 hours ago. So think of it like that. So someone that's, say, training in the afternoon, 6 hours after breakfast, they're going to be still using that breakfast. So people think, oh, I've had a really good, meal 2 to 3 hours before, I'll be sweet, and I had a really bad breakfast. It's like, well, no, your body's actually using that breakfast too.
Yeah.
So it's really important to make sure that, your pre and post-training nutrition is on point. Yes, that's very important, but also your meals across the day as well, because your body's using that as well.
I guess that's a good point to look at it like a whole day in complete, and also a whole week, because what you're saying with maybe varying the calories and making sure you eat them at the right times, like that whole, if you stuff up once or twice in a week, it's not that bad, right? But but like you got to look at the whole week as a system, I guess.
Yeah, exactly right. And even with, people that want to lose weight or gain weight, don't look at it as day to day. look at it as a weekly thing, you know. So people will be in a calorie deficit from Monday to Friday, and then their weekends will blow out. They'll come to me, why am I not losing weight? And I'm like, because you've just eaten majority of your calories on the weekend, you know. So your body, like, and this is what I call about periodizing calorie intake as well. Like, so I remember probably when I was cutting a little bit of weight, maybe like a year ago, I noticed that I was going out and I was eating more calories on the weekend. Most people do, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I was periodizing that through, you know, on the weekdays when I knew I wasn't eating as much as I was on the weekend, I'd make my calorie budget as such less than what it was on the weekends. So I had that leniency on the weekends. And that's what I tend to do with some of my clients as well. You know, if I know that they're going out, they like to go out for dinner, they go out with their friends, their family, then I'll be like, all right.
Drinks.
Yep.
A few calories in those.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You know, Monday to Friday might be, let's just say their target calories is 2,000, you know. They might have less, you know, 1,800 from Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They've got a little bit more to spare, play with, really. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so back to you a little bit. I wonder if you had any, have you followed any diets or any kind of nutrition plans that you like look back at now and you'd be like, oh, that was probably not a good idea?
Yeah. I mean, I have, to be honest, and it's a little bit close to home because it was quite a scary time of my life. I won't mention any sort of brands or businesses or anything, but I did like a challenge, an 8-week challenge. Sorry. Did an 8-week challenge, and I was on very, very low calories and very low carbs. And that essentially went on for the 8 weeks, and I was really committed because I really wanted to win because I'm a really competitive person. That's why I do CrossFit. I wanted to win, and I was really restricting my eating, but not only did my eating or my calories come right back down, I went from training 1 session to training 2 sessions because I wanted to win. So I was doubling my energy expenditure, but halving what I was eating. So got to maybe the 6th week, and I noticed that I didn't get my period. And I was quite, you know, I've always been quite regular. So not getting that for this period of time, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? What's going on? You know, and I had no idea. This is probably my first year of my degree, so I hadn't really, we didn't really get into any of the nutrition side of things. It was more the sciencey base. So
you were battling with biochemistry.
Yeah, I was stressed with chemistry. That's what I was stressed with. But it was so I got to 6 and I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I went to the doctor. And he basically just said, well, yeah, you're not fueling yourself correctly, so you've lost menstruation. That's the first thing to go when you're not eating enough, really. So that was really, really scary. Yes, okay, I lost 6 kilos. That was fantastic, and I felt great in that sense, but I didn't feel great because I knew that, what if I never got my period back? I could never have kids. I could never have a family like I've always wanted. So that was really, really scary. And I think, you know, for males, it's like, oh, yeah, righto. But I think for females, that's where it becomes quite touchy. You know, us females, we want kids. You know, we're made to reproduce, and for that to be taken away from us, it's like, you know, it's a bit of a shock, really. So, yeah, doing that, I finished the challenge. I was like, great. Didn't even win. Oh, my gosh.
Wasn't even worth it at the end.
I know it wasn't even worth it. But, you know, and I thought, okay, no, my health is way more important than this. I need to do something about this. So I went back to eating the same amount of calories that I did before the challenge, put back on all the weight, but also took a lot of time to get my period back. That was a very, very crazy moment when I got it back. You know, I screamed. I was like, oh my gosh, I got my period back, you know. So yeah, that was probably the diet that I've done. And I mean, it wasn't like keto or anything like that, but it was very, very low carbohydrate.
Having worked as a trainer, I've heard very similar stories before, like throughout the, you know, especially people that wanted to compete, high level CrossFit, feeling pressure to look in a certain way. It's it's not uncommon, I believe. And I think more and more in the last few years, it's been, I think, more normal for people to mention this, because back when, like, I competed years and years ago, so it's been a while. Yeah. But then no one really, or I never heard of it back then. But maybe the girls were talking a bit between themselves. But as the years have progressed, it's not uncommon at all.
Yeah, no, and it's getting more, as you said, more and more common. Coming back to social media, you know, it's everyone wants to look a certain way now, and it's not about, people's mindsets are not about, okay, I'm eating to fuel my performance. I'm eating to look good. Yeah. Or I'm not eating to look good, you know? Yeah. So it's really challenging. And when you've got these nutritionists out there, it's really challenging for people like myself trying to get the right message out, you know, and because all these nutritionists, they'll make you look skinny in 8 weeks. I'm not here to make you look skinny in 8 weeks. I'm here to educate you in more than 8 weeks. And, you know, if you want to lose weight, it's not just going to take 8 weeks. It might take 6 months, you know. But I think with people's impatience, you know, they're all about the quick fix. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, what you're advocating a bit more is a healthy life. Like, it's not a skinny life isn't necessarily a healthy life at all. And it, for a lot of people, probably shouldn't be a goal unless you want to compete or like in a figure comp or something like that. But it's very different, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's not much of a life, really. Like, I remember when I was doing that, 8-week challenge, I was going to dinner with my friends with a Chinese container with no rice, spinach and turkey mince. It's it's like that's extreme. That is not a life. You want to enjoy yourself. And I think that's why the style of sort of eating that I have now and I've adopted now, which is counting my macros and tracking my food, I really enjoy it because I have so much flexibility and I can eat things that I actually really enjoy eating. So, I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and I said, I rarely go out to dinner because I don't feel like I need to. I remember when I was on this 8-week challenge, I was fiending for my what they call cheat meal on a Saturday night because I was so restricted through the week that Saturday night was my one night that I could just go ham. Yeah. But now it's like, then I'd go and get a pizza and ice cream. But if I feel like ice cream, I track it. If I want a pizza, I have been obsessed with making pizzas lately. Oh my gosh. So like last week I made a pizza 3 or 4 nights in the whole week. So it's not like I feel like I need to go out and binge or have, a massive feast because I'm eating it throughout the week and I'm still hitting my goals of, whether it be body composition or performance. Yeah.
That's such a major plus of tracking your own food is that you're in full control. But I think for most people, when they hear tracking your food, we kind of lose them pretty quickly because they think, oh, no, this is not for me. It's too much work, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Explain why that is not necessarily important, for all of us, but it also doesn't have to be that hard, right? I think having been a trainer and, you're obviously a dietitian, we track for a certain period of time in your life and you learn a lot about tracking your food. But then for me, I haven't tracked it in ages because it's like I know rough averages now. But yeah, what are some of the advices you give around tracking food and how do you do it, for instance?
So I'll talk about what I do and then how I sort of help my clients when they want to track. And, disclaimer, it's not for everyone. Tracking is not for everyone. People don't want to sit there and sit on their phone tracking their food, and it can go 2 ways. It can turn into a really healthy relationship with food, or people can get really anal about it. And that's when I start to see some unhealthy sort of relationships with food coming on there. But anyway, so what I do, I cannot eat the same thing every single day. I can roughly eat the same thing every single day, but I want some sort of variety. So I know, because I've been doing it for so long, I'm the same as you, you know, you kind of have a rough idea of what calories are in what. So my breakfast, I know that it's about 650 calories. I sort of know the macronutrient breakdown. I'll still track it every day.
Do you use an app to track it?
Yeah. So I'll still track it, but I sort of track as the day goes through. You know, if I've got 5 minutes just sitting down, I'll just quickly put it in. And I know...
What app do you use?
I shuffle between two.
Okay.
Depending on
one has good numbers, one has bad numbers.
Yeah,
yeah,
legit. Like, oh, that gives me an extra 100 calories. It's more, well, so the two that I use is MyFitnessPal or Easy Diet Diary.
Okay.
So at the moment I'm on Easy Diet Diary. The reason I like pros and cons of both. So pro and con of Easy Diet Diary is that it is actually quite easy to use and it has a lot of food in there already, so you don't need to add it in yourself. And it also uses an Australian food database. So it's I wouldn't say very accurate, but it's more accurate than MyFitnessPal because MyFitnessPal uses a US food database. Yep. So, I mean, I've tracked things in MyFitnessPal where it's come up and it's had 240 calories, but all the macronutrients have question marks. Like, there's no macronutrients in there. And I'm like, well, that's not going to help me. But then the pro of MyFitnessPal is that it has the targets. So you can go into nutrition and it says, you know, 250 carbs out of your goal of 280, you have 30 left. I like that. But I just like the accuracy of Easy Diet Diary. But again, tracking can have a variance of, you know, sometimes 30%. So it's a big difference. Big gap, huge. So sometimes when people track and they're like, I'm not losing weight or I'm not putting on, you know, sometimes I say, well, let's switch apps and let's have a play on both because of that 30% variance. So you could think, you know, my goal is to have 2,500 calories, but I'm actually having 2,800 or whatever. So, so as I said, going back to what I do is I usually just do it throughout the day. And then if I know that I'm having if I feel like pizza, right?
4 nights a week?
Yeah, 4 nights a week. I know that it's quite a calorie dense meal. So I will put that in at the beginning of the day and then change my day accordingly. So I might have a slightly smaller snack, you know, in the morning. Yeah. And so that gives me room to play around.
You plan it out.
Yeah, I plan it out. I do.
Today's pizza day. I know it's coming up. You must be excited all day then for that.
Oh my gosh, I'm actually having pizza tonight. I won't lie. I don't know. I just go through these phases where I feel like something. Next week it could be burritos and I'll have burritos. But that's what I like about it is that it's super flexible. You know, they call it flexible dieting, but I just call it tracking your macros really. Yeah.
So, and one of the things I saw you posted on your Instagram was how people measure, like the eye measure can quite often be wrong. Because some that have the attitude that, tracking's too hard, I can just look at it, it'll be fine. Explain a bit what that post is all about because, you know, a teaspoon of peanut butter can be two very different things, right?
Totally, yeah. And this is it goes back to what I was talking about, like the pros and cons of tracking. I think, you know, you can have a really good relationship with food and then you might not have a really good relationship with food. But I also love it because it's actually a really good education tool. So people that have no idea what a tablespoon or a teaspoon of peanut butter is might go, you know, I'll say, all right, let's just track for a week and see how you're going. They'll come back to me and be like, wow, I was having so much peanut butter and I had no idea. Peanut butter is amazing. One of my favorite foods. But, you know, you could dip a teaspoon of peanut butter and it really is a tablespoon. Is it an overflowed teaspoon or is it a level teaspoon? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And what's that difference, like roughly in calories or percentage? That's pretty big, right?
Yeah. Well, if a teaspoon is usually maybe 80 calories, that might be wrong, but it's like it's obviously peanut butter as it's a fat, it's quite calorie dense. So going from, let's say, 100 calories to 300 calories just in the level of, how much peanut butter you have.
It's on the spoon, across a week or,
a day, a serving. Yeah, totally. And I mean, most people like peanut butter. If you don't like peanut butter, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, who would do like a small average spoon, right? Like most people do it.
Exactly. So it's like there's massive variance in, and even when you track, I will always recommend that people weigh their food, not just track what they're having, because as you said, you could say, I had a teaspoon of peanut butter, but I actually had a tablespoon that was just on a teaspoon. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I always say actually weigh your food, because that will give you the accurate macronutrient breakdown.
And it's not that hard weighing your food. If you've never done it before, people might think, that's just too much work. But you just buy a little scale and keep it in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And you don't have to weigh every single thing you eat during the week. You can just weigh small things here and there, right? And then your eye measuring becomes a lot better.
Yeah. What do they call it? Guesstimating or
that's all I'm doing these days.
Yeah.
I'm just guesstimating.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it for the rest of your life. You don't have to weigh your food forever. But as I said, it's a good education tool to think, okay, well that, a handful of nuts isn't my whole hand, or a handful is like 30 grams. Serving is usually about 30 grams, right? But they say a handful of nuts. But a handful of nuts can be your whole hand or just, the little crevice in your palm. Yeah. So there's a massive difference.
It could be a double size difference in that handful.
Exactly. Yeah. Even oil, oil is one. Extra virgin olive oil is incredible for your health, super beneficial, has really good anti-inflammatory benefits, but it's something that, in terms of calories can nip you in the butt pretty quick. So that's another thing that's good to measure as well.
Yeah, that was on the pulse that you had, because pouring olive oil in your frying pan, that it can be such a big variance in how much people use, right? Like a little bit to just get frying, or they just cover the base of it, basically.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I guess it's a good education tool. Don't have to do it forever, but just to get a good understanding of how much you're actually using and how much you're actually eating, because most people don't know how many calories they're eating. Yeah. I'm not one to stress about, as in with clients, I'm like, don't stress about the number too much, but just have a good understanding of what a good serving size is, And once you get into the habit of it, like yourself, you start to understand, okay, that's probably too much. That's probably a perfect size. If you go out to a restaurant, you can start to eyeball things, because you go out to a restaurant without having good education. Say you go to a Thai restaurant and you get a stir fry with rice, half the bowl is rice. It can be up to, 3 cups of rice, 2 to 3 cups of rice. That's huge amounts, that's
even for someone who loves carbs, that's a lot of carbs.
It is a lot of carbs. Exactly. So it's just about thinking, and another another tool as well is using your hands. Like obviously not sitting in a restaurant and putting your hand next to the plate. Everyone think you're a weirdo, but just thinking, okay, does that look the size of my hand? If with protein, guys, I always say it's 2 fists, female is 1 fist. So having a look at the meat size and thinking, okay, is that the size of my fist? Is that the size of 2 of my fists? And that's another way as well if you don't want to track.
Yeah, there's some really good infographics on that. I think Precision Nutrition has posted similar stuff, right?
They're
pretty
fantastic.
Easy to
exactly.
Learn those small things.
Exactly, yeah.
So what I wanted to continue on with is maybe a little bit more about you and your training and what you're doing. So you train at my old gym, or not my old gym, but where I used to train, right? What does your training look like? What kind of move? Explain for people who don't know. What kind of stuff are you guys doing there? And what's your training goals?
So my training goals at the moment, I was always just doing classes, and then I got to a stage where I was, as I said before, I'm a very competitive person. I used to play Premier League soccer, so I have always been quite competitive.
What team did you play for?
Beacon Hill. So yeah, I mean, it's not overly high, but you know, it's up there. So yeah, I got to a stage. I was like, okay, I want to do something that is gonna push my limits essentially.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, I want to get onto like a proper competing program. Had a conversation with a couple of people from Be Athletic, and we got a comp group together. So we do additional programming. So yeah, as I said, so Monday, Tuesday is 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon. Wednesdays is usually a swim or a 30-minute aerobic sort of session.
Oh, awesome.
Then Thursday, Friday is the same as Monday, Tuesday. And then Wednesday is just an hour and a half session.
So on your double days, do you do strength in the morning or more, metcons in the afternoon, or how does it look? Or is it?
It's kind of different. So the morning I will do the class, and then in the afternoon I'll do a lot of it is usually Olympic lifting, and then accessory work. So everyone hates accessory work, but
and then
it's
that's maybe the most
needed.
important.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, I hate doing accessory work. It's boring, but it's definitely needed because you have to build that strength. And, that's when I first started CrossFit, Wall down at Be Athletic would always be like, Tara, you just need to build your strength. You've got all the movements down packed. You just need to build your strength. Yeah. All right. Well, but then once I started doing this additional programming, I was like, wow, yeah, this is incredible. Like it's really in the last 3 months that I've been doing it, it's really improved my strength. So yeah, majority of it is just like Olympic lifting, gymnastics as well, a couple of what we call SSP, so sport specific preparedness. So that's really just quite a grindy workout.
Yeah.
So
more of a Metcon style. And it's Scotty that's programming for you guys.
Scotty
right?
Holmes. Yeah. He's a legend. He's amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Give me some examples of accessory exercises which one's your favorite and which one's your least favorite?
My least favorite, look, I don't like strict pull-ups or weighted strict pull-ups. That's probably my worst movement. I just don't like doing it. I really like doing weighted dips, like ring dips or bar dips. And I also really like the GHD. Doing hip extensions or just doing GHD setups, weighted always. So
you're stronger in the pressing than in the pulling upper body, would you say?
Good question. I don't really know.
It sounds like it because you take a preference to one way or the other.
Yeah.
You can ask the same, right? With it's very general. Like I'm generalizing it, but some people will enjoy more squatting, and some people will enjoy more deadlifting.
Yeah. Exactly. To be honest, I like them both equally as much. Really.
Do you feel stronger in one of them than the other?
Definitely. I guess definitely my deadlift, but everyone's deadlift is usually.
Not me.
Not really. Really?
Yeah. It depends a bit on your body type as well, but
are you a squatter?
Yeah. I mean I think I back squatted more than I ever deadlifted. Did I?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but I never really deadlifted a 1RM, so that's probably why those numbers are close.
Yeah.
But that's extreme.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really didn't like deadlifts, but
I do like squatting. Now that I can squat more, it's better now that I've been doing this programming, and I'm actually starting to do weightlifting, like specific weightlifting coaching.
To clean and jerk?
All that sort of stuff. So with a coach up in Brisbane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miles or?
Yeah, Miles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's a very good Olympic
very
weightlifting
good.
coach.
Yeah. So I just thought, you know what, if people can invest their money in going out and drinking and doing that, but this is what I like to invest my money in, because
awesome.
I know it's, it's helping me. And I think as I said, I'm competitive, but I'm not super competitive against other people. It's more so myself. I'm like, I really want to get stronger. And I feel for a woman, like I think for me especially, I feel really empowered when I know, I'm strong. And I get girls like messaging me on Instagram being like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. And it's like, that's what we all should be like, you know, like it's awesome. Important to be strong.
It's like one of my favorite things that CrossFit has brought to our kind of society. I guess, is girls lifting weights. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
You'll be, if you're lucky, you get to train a bit with Erica up there. And she's Erica Yamasaki, and she's amazing. Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, she lifts pretty much the same numbers as me, and she's tiny.
I just look at these girls. Yeah, totally. I look at these girls and think, oh my gosh, like you're so strong. Like I want to get to that point, you know, like I'm only just starting out with training and competing and stuff. So I can't wait to see what I'll be like in 2 years.
So fun, right?
So much fun. And I love, people think CrossFit is like a cult, but it's the thing that I love about CrossFit is the community style of it, that the community aspect, because you're always in a class, you've got people that are like 60 something lifting 100 kilos. Yeah. And even this morning when I was at training, we have an older sort of lady there. And I said to one of my girlfriends that I train with, that is so cool to see. Yeah, like 60-something-year-old coming in and just giving it a go. And she was pretty good too. Yeah. So it's
lifting weights, right? Yeah. How good is that for you at that age?
Oh my gosh, exceptional. Yeah. And I think that's one thing, because I do sometimes get like an elder or older aged clients, and I'm always saying resistance training, exercise is so important at that age, because the rate of muscle protein synthesis decreases big time. So it's a lot harder to maintain muscle at that age. So that's why resistance training at that age is really important, even more so than now,
Yeah. Hey, I want to jump back to something we talked about just 2 minutes ago. What answer would you give females who are so worried that they're going to get muscly if they do any type of resistance training, I should say, or even, CrossFit gyms get this all the time. I don't want to get bulky.
Yeah. All the time.
How often do you hear that?
Yeah. I reckon every third person is like, oh, but I don't want to get bulky if I do weights. And I'm like, it's physiologically impossible to look like a male for a female unless you're on something, So
and unless you train a lot. I think people don't see that.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I've got even my friends, my close girlfriends, they're not very fitnessy. I'm probably the fitness one out of the group. And they're like, my friend said to me, you're pretty staunch. And I was like, really? But it gets to a stage where I'd rather be muscly and be able to lift weights than, be really skinny and not be able to do much, So it's lifting weights is not going to make you bulky. It's just physiologically impossible because we don't have the testosterone like men do. But as I said, unless you're on something. But yeah, so I always say you won't look like that. Yeah. You obviously are going to build a little bit of muscle, but you're not going to look like a man. Yeah.
I often say that, well, you can try your hardest to get bulky, and if that was my goal as a trainer for you, we can try that, but it's going to be pretty much impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
You've got nothing to be scared of.
I know. But I think before I did CrossFit, I was kind of the same. I was like, oh gosh, they're huge. Like they're really tank. But I think once you get into that environment, it's more like, oh, yeah, I don't really care. Yeah. If I'm strong, I don't care, like it's...
Your perception changes, right?
Totally. Yeah. And that's another thing with CrossFit, as you said, it's this connotation around females shouldn't be really strong, but with CrossFit, it's brought into society that, we can be strong. Like that's we can be just as strong as males,
Sadly, that's happening a lot with me. I see girls getting stronger than after I retired. It's awesome.
It's the same thing in class, cool. Like even, a couple of the coaches are like, boys, you got to step up your game. These girls are lapping you.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the case of Be Athletic. There's been such good girls there.
Yeah.
And then the boys have been lacking a little bit. I'm including me in that group of boys, so I'm not having a go at anyone. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, what's your plans for, what some of the goals that you want to do with your kind of dietitian services or your businesses? What are some of the things that you're trying to achieve through that? It's 2020 and all. So it's a good year to look at goals.
Yeah, for sure. So I've recently just taken a job with a supplement company up on the Gold Coast. So I'll be
back on the Goldie.
Yeah, back on the Goldie. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's in, it's a supplement company called Amazonia. So I'm in their new product development team.
Where on the Gold Coast are they?
Miami.
Oh,
right on the beach too.
Smack in the middle of everything.
Oh my God, yeah.
Wow.
It'll be so good on my lunch break going for a swim. So I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
But I want to continue doing my own business. I want to build that, but I want to build it online. So I really want to get, for me, I've always been a little bit different in the sense that I'm not your standard dietitian. I like to think of myself as more of a nutrition coach, a sports nutrition coach. So I want to kind of develop an online program that allows me to have a really good relationships with my clients. So I'll be working in that supplement company and then building my business as well. So I want to. This year I have a specific goal of getting a recipe ebook out, which is like a macro-friendly recipe ebook. I've always had something like that in my mind. I love cooking. I love food. So why not make it, eat it, and then share it?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so that's my goal for that. And I definitely want to start seeing more CrossFit athletes. So I've got a few on board at the moment, but I really want to broaden my horizons. And I love that. I mean, I live and breathe it really. So being amongst it and being able to help people perform at their best, especially in CrossFit, is what I love,
Awesome.
And I love team sport as well. Like at the moment, I'm the dietitian for the Rabbitohs. So that's a really cool gig.
Yeah.
But yeah, my heart and soul is definitely in the CrossFit space. But yeah.
There's so many gyms up on the Gold Coast, CrossFit gyms. So there's plenty of people around there that are into it. Yeah. Have you decided where to train yet?
I have. Yes, at Urban. Yeah. Urban Health and Fitness. It's more CrossFit Urban. Yeah. Some of my best friends are there. Caitlin's there. So we'll all train there.
She's made it to the games again, hasn't
she? She has. She's like super mum.
Yeah.
She's incredible. You'll
have a good training partner there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'll claim that all the time. Yeah, I train with Caitlin. Yeah. She'll smash me. I think it was like a month ago I went up to the Gold Coast just for a little bit of a holiday. And it was me, my best friend Laura, and Caitlin training. Caitlin absolutely annihilated us. We were like halfway through the workout and she's like, all right, guys, yep, come on. Yep. She's finished. It's like, well, all right, we've got some work to do, Laura.
Well, remember, she's a games athlete.
Yes, exactly. But it's cool because it's always like, and another thing with CrossFit that I really like is that you're continuously pushing to do better. It's like the other day I was testing 1RMs for miles and my back squat was like 107 or something. And everyone's like, wow, that's heavy. But I'm like, yeah, but I can go heavier. Do you know what I mean?
It's never ending.
It's like you constantly, and it's good because you've got weaknesses. Like even this morning we're doing chest to bars and that is so my weakness. And I'm like, cool, that's a weakness I got to work on, you know? So you're never going to be good at everything. So that's what I like. You see progression all the time, which is really cool.
Absolutely. It's it's such a good, fun thing to be part of. And it's always something to work towards.
Yeah, for sure.
Tara, best of luck on the Gold Coast.
Thank you.
We'll have to get you back after you, maybe after you make your first sanctionals.
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Well, no, yeah, I was speaking
2021.
I honestly wouldn't mind going to ACC next year, depending on.
Yeah,
might
you'll be
in
a local
team
by then.
Yeah, I'll know the ropes by then. So yeah, probably in a team. Probably not individual. I like doing it in teams because it's more fun. But yeah, so I definitely that's a goal. ACC 2020, watch out.
Maybe you can convince Caitlin to go team one year.
I don't think she'll ever do that, but yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tara.
No worries.